one of the jars of preserves are made in November. Now November's normally a month when I don't make many preserves because basically we've used up our stocks of fruit before then. This year it was a bit different because we actually had quite a bit of fruit stored in the freezer, and we spent an awful lot of the month trying to get that fruit used up by making it into preserves because we had something arriving at the end of the month. Half a pig. And we definitely needed the freezer space for that. So welcome to Self-Sufficient in Suburbia for November 2018. It is Monday the 5th of November 2018, so that means it's bonfire night, and we've come to High Spen in the darkness, and it is the hop garden that we're visiting. We've visited lots of times, we know the people who run it, and they're having a bit of a bonfire do tonight. I'm back home now, and it was very dark on the hop garden, as you'd expect at 6 o'clock on a November evening. But one of the things I did manage to get a look at quite closely was the wood-fired oven that they have there, and one of the things that we've been wanting to do for a while is to actually install one ourselves. Not in our back garden here, but possibly over the road at the Winnie's. And it was interesting talking to the organisers of the hop garden there about the oven and how it works, and they're going to put me in touch with the person who built theirs and possibly see if we can get him to come and build one for us as well. But one of the things we're absolutely clear about is that we have absolutely tons of fuel that we could use for the oven. In fact, it's absolutely mountains of it on our far side allotment, so the sooner we can get that project underway, the better. It is Tuesday the 6th of November 2018. Now, we've got a sort of arrangement with a friend of ours who is keeping some pigs. He's got 3 pigs, and half of one of those pigs actually belongs to us, and all the pigs are going to slaughter at the end of the month. Now, we've got 4 freezers here, and at the minute they are all full, so we are desperately going through trying to use up what we can to create space in time for the end of the month when the pigs come back from the slaughterhouse. So it means that today I'm spending quite a bit of time in the kitchen using up stuff that I got out of the freezer last night. So on the cooker here we have 3 kilos of blackberries simmering away with some apples, and this will be used to make bramble jelly. Also out from the freezer last night was a bag of runner beans and some bean stock, and that is going to be used to make soup for dinner tonight. And on the cooker here we have some pink fir apple. Oh, we are a bit steamed up. Hold on a moment. Let's just get unsteamed. Right, we have some pink fir apple potatoes in there. Now these are salad potatoes, and obviously they haven't come out of the freezer, they've come out of one of our allotments, but the water that they're being boiled in will be added to the vegetable soup that we'll make tonight, and in fact it will go into this pan here, which has a little bit of soup left in there. It's not enough for a whole helping, so it'll start off the soup tonight. So we'll just simply add all the soup to that, the soup mix to it. And in the sink here we have a load of quail eggs, because we urgently need to use up the quail eggs because they're all sitting on top of one of the chest freezers, so they need to be used up, and they will be then made into a salad for lunch with those pink fir apple potatoes there. This is 2 kilos of plums which came out of the freezer last night as well. As you can see, they're all now defrosted, and they will be added to some apples later today to make plum and apple jam. And finally, this came out of the freezer last night. It is cherry and apple puree. It's been in the freezer for a year, and that is going to be made into cherry ketchup. So here we have 1 potato and quail egg salad, now ready for my lunch. Well, I've finished boiling the apple and blackberries, so they are now straining, and the liquid will be used to make a jelly, and then the pulp will be pressed through a sieve to make a puree, and that will be added to chopped apple to make a seedless blackberry and apple jam. It is Wednesday the 7th of November 2018. Now, a couple of days ago I was filming here in the kitchen. I was pointing out 1 or 2 things that I was in the middle of making and that they were going to be finished the next day, i.e. yesterday. Well, okay, I didn't quite get round to doing them, so this evening I'm doing a bit of catch-up in the kitchen. So this is the bramble jelly, and it is very close to hitting the setting point. And what I have here, that is the pulp, so that's going to be pressed through a sieve probably tomorrow, and that will be used, the fruit puree will be used with some apples to make a seedless apple and bramble jam. This is the soup that I was going to start making the other day and have now actually got underway. So this is our dinner for tonight, and it's a load of vegetables and beans from the freezer so that we can use, because it will create some space in the freezer that we desperately need. So I did a search through and found whatever I could. So I think I'll call it a whatever I could soup, and that's for dinner tonight. It is Friday the 9th of November 2018. As you can see, I'm back here in the kitchen yet again, and in fact you can probably hear the extractor fan working away. Jam making again, but it's the bit of a sort of catch up from the previous few days, because I'm using the pulp that was left over from making the bramble jelly, and that's being turned into a jam at the moment. So the pulp was pressed through a sieve to get a fruit puree, and it has now been put in the pan with some chopped apple, and it's being boiled up to make a seedless blackberry and apple jam. And then next to it is yet another pan of soup. This time it is, well, there's a bit of leftover soup in there from last night, but the rest of it is vegetables that I've been rescuing from the freezer, particularly a bag of cauliflower leaves from 4 years ago. Cauliflower is one of my favourite foods, and it always amazes me that people actually throw away the leaves, because they're quite usable. It's a bit like cabbage. So anyway, we discovered them in the freezer this evening, and I simply put it in the pan there with some frozen runner beans, and that'll be a soup for tonight and hopefully for tomorrow as well. Here it is now ready, and as you can see I've blended it. What I haven't told anybody yet is that I put some chilies into it. Having tested it, it's rather hot. So there we have it, some jam making now over for the day, and we made 9 jars of seedless blackberry and apple jam. It is Monday the 12th of November 2018. As you can see, I'm next to the Land Rover, but I'm outside my mum's garage, and we've been using it as a storage space recently, because our garage is now full of stuff, and what we actually have here in the Land Rover is about 100 kilos at least of apples, and we got these in a food swap yesterday. A friend of ours was who swaps his apples and plums with us for jam, put us in touch with somebody out near South Shields, at a little village called Whitburn, who had one tree in their garden and produced this huge quantity of apples, absolutely mountains of them. So we took over a box of 10 jams and filled the Land Rover. So this will keep us going for preserves, but also most of it will be used for goat food during the winter. Well, this has not been a very successful transfer of the apples into the garage, because look at this. One of the sacks is split. I've spilled all the contents all over the place, so I've emptied one of the jam trays, jam boxes, started putting them into there. Okay, so I've managed to get into the garage this sack, which was the one that split, and the spillage went into this box here, but I'm not going to move any of the others into here until I've gone home and got some plastic sacks to transfer the apples into. It's now about 4 o'clock in the afternoon and we are about to lose the light, so I've come back to Mum's garage and I've managed to sort out getting the apples into sacks. So we've got a couple there. These apples in the tray I just left where they were, and then these sacks are the ones that I've made up this afternoon. It's plenty there to keep us going, but that's not all of them. So this is in the back of the Land Rover, and what we actually have here is another sack of apples. We simply ran out of sacks for them. I didn't bring enough, so they're going to have to be sorted soon. And then we've got 2 bags of rather bashed apples which won't last for much longer, so the goats are going to be fed them over the next few days. It's now 9:30 in the evening, as you can see, back in the kitchen, and we are still making jams. We've got 2 on the cooker at the moment. This is raspberry, gooseberry and apple, and this is blackcurrant, rhubarb and apple. Now, rhubarb, blackcurrants, raspberries and gooseberries came out of the freezer, therefore allowing me to free up some space. The apples are just from our stores that we've got at the moment. We still have in our freezers a huge amount of produce that needs to be converted into preserves, and I've just checked in the garage and we have 2 boxes of jam jars left, but after that we're going to be struggling to get enough jam jars to use, so we may be putting out an appeal to people to donate their jam jars. It's now 9:45 and here we have 6 jars of blackcurrant, apple and rhubarb jam, and next to it 10 jars of apple, raspberry and gooseberry. And just for good measure, these jars were made a few days ago. It's a sauce, apple and blackberry seedless sauce. My confession is it was meant to be a jam, but as you can see it hasn't set properly, so I'm just going to label it as a sauce. It is Thursday the 22nd of November 2018, back in the kitchen, and I have a jug of homemade bitter. We've had a barrel of homemade bitter in the garage for ages, which we've only been using up gradually. Want to get it all used up, and recently we've been taking stuff out of the freezer as well, get that used up so we can create some freezer space for the pig that's coming later this month. So we have on the cooker a combination, or a meal where I'm going to combine all these together. So I've got in the pan a pheasant and a duck, and I'm going to pot roast them in our own stock, chicken stock in there, and I'm going to add into it the bitter, and let that simmer away for a couple of hours. So there we have dinner laid out now. Only stripped one of the birds, and as you can see in the pan here, I've actually added the water that I boiled the potatoes into the pan, but we've still got one of the birds there. That's the duck, and a bit of cabbage left over as well, so that's gone in, so nothing is wasted. It is Friday the 23rd of November 2018. We are back in the kitchen for another jam making day. So we have already made 16 jars of raspberry and apple jam. Raspberries came from out of one of our freezers last night, again trying to make space for the pig that is arriving at the end of the month. But also on the cooker we have rhubarb, apple and ginger jam, and this is just about ready to go into jars. So again, the rhubarb came out of one of the big chest freezers, and again desperate to create some space for the piggy, and in the meantime these jams will be going to the Emmanuel College Fair tomorrow. Well, we now have the apple, rhubarb and ginger in jars, 15 jars of it, so actually that's still nicely warm. So some of them will go to the Emmanuel College Christmas market tomorrow as well. It is Saturday the 24th of November 2018. We're here in Emmanuel College in Lobley Hill in Gateshead. It's just down the road from where we live, and we have a table at the Christmas market they have here. So as you can see, we are selling our jams and pickles and chutneys and jellies and marmalades and eggs. Not that we're getting many eggs at this time of year. It's only just opened and I've already made 2 sales. It's now 10 to 3 and there's 10 minutes left of the market, but I think people are just starting to pack up, and I'm going to show you the table. As you can see, there are now some significant gaps there, so we've had a reasonably successful day and exceeded my targets for the day, so that makes me rather happy. So all packed up now, 2 empty boxes to go back, so this lot were all full when they came here. Interestingly, only sold 1 box of eggs. It's Monday the 26th of November 2018. I had a jam morning today, made 15 jars of rhubarb, apple and ginger jam, and again it was to help use up some of the rhubarb that's in the freezer, or one of our freezers, so trying to create some space because very soon the pig meat will be arriving. Now this evening I'm going to pan down, yeah, very good, to this. This is the game soup that we made from the what we pot boiled the pheasant and duck in last week, so we have a very large quantity of soup. We'll have some more tomorrow, but we'll just get fed up with it if we keep having it after that, because it's a rather large quantity. So I'm going to have to break the rules and put some of this into the freezer, and I'm just hoping it's not going to take up too much space. It is Tuesday the 27th of November 2018. It has been a foul day, vile weather, loads of rain to add to the huge quantity of rain that we've already had, so the place is awash with mud. But anyway, we're in Lowfell at the minute, and we have come here because it's the monthly meeting of Tyneside beekeepers, and I think we have a mead manufacturer there tonight. Back from the beekeepers meeting now, and I'm going to go over and do a check on the goats because it's been so wet and horrible, and make sure that they're okay. But I'm going to take them over some dry bedding, which is actually going to be these newspapers. I'm going to just shred them all, rip them all up, take them over in a couple of sacks and make sure that the goats are comfortable for the night. Well, the three of us just sat in the front room ripping up newspapers, so I've got 2 sackfuls here. So I'm going to take them over now. It's going to be too dark to film over there, so I think I'll just update you all tomorrow as to how we got on. But basically, I want to make sure that the goats have some dry bedding and make sure that the goat house itself isn't flooded with mud and water. Well, the goats seem to be quite settled, and I put the newspaper in, and some of them ate it and some of them just decided to lie in it, which is what I wanted them to do. So they're quite settled. But I'm back in the kitchen now. Just spent 20 minutes sorting one of our freezers so we can try and create some space in it, and I've taken out a load of rhubarb. So 6 kilos have come out, and these bags will defrost overnight, and tomorrow, assuming I've got time, I'm going to make at least half of it into rhubarb chutney. At the beekeepers meeting tonight, Steve was there. He's the guy who owns the pigs, and he confirmed that they are going off for slaughter tomorrow. So it'll be a few days yet before we get the meat back, but we really need to press on with trying to create more space in the freezers. It is Wednesday the 28th of November 2018. I'm in the goat house. The goat house which last night we were putting down pallets and putting down shredded paper for the goats for bedding to try and keep them off the damp. So it is continuing to rain. I'm also getting mugged by the goat at this minute. As we can see, we've got eating my jacket there. They seem to have come through this okay, because I'm going to just turn the camera around now, and as you can see, Spot is there on the pallet, and the shredded paper is still relatively dry. So that's good. That means that they've got a dry spot in here. The problem is, if we just sort of turn around and look out the garage at the allotment here, we're at the bottom of a slope, and I think in retrospect we built the goat house in the wrong place. Basically what's happening is that the water and the mud is just simply dribbling and flowing down the embankment towards the entrance of the goat house here, so we are going to have to be forever digging out the muck that gradually flows in here. I think we're going to have to reconsider this arrangement at some point, but it's going to have to stay in place for the winter. And I'm getting my coat is being assaulted this time by Sunny here. There you go. As you can see, they're also using the milking stand as well, but they've always used that because they like to sleep on there, normally huddled up as a group of 2 or 3, with the rest in the corner. And then Sunny is now trying to eat my trousers. Come on, off you go. There you go. Got paved areas out here as well. Well, I say paved, they're just paving stones on the ground, and it gives them some hard standing. But again, at this time of year with the rain, they're constantly getting covered in mud, so we're constantly having to sweep them down. As you can see, if you step off the paved area here, you can see how muddy it is, not helped by the ducks. And then back onto another paved area here. But we're definitely going to have to get more paving stones down. Everything, however, is nice and dry in the big hen house. I was going to try and get them some privet this afternoon, but it's just too wet, so I've given them hay instead. I don't particularly want to do that because it's eating into our hay supply for the winter, and at the current rate that we're using it up because of this wet weather, then we're going to have to buy in more stocks, probably in early January. But at the minute they're on hay, so they are really chomping their way through it. It's nearly dark now, and it's not even 4 o'clock yet, so it's that time of year when there's not many daylight hours, and apart from the rain, it's also rather miserably cold. So we regularly put our light a fire in our stove back home, and it heats the entire house. And of course, we have a free fuel supply, which is the branches that we fed to the goats through the summer, or the branches that we're feeding them, that we are using as fuel now, were fed to them a year and a half ago, so they've had 1.5 years to dry out. So I'm just taking a batch back now because we're starting to get low on fuel back home. They're slightly damp on the outside at the moment, but once we put them in the house, they'll dry out within a day or so. Otherwise they're completely dry inside because they've been drying out. They've had 2 summers to dry out. Back in the kitchen now, and half of the rhubarb that I took out of the freezer last night has now been made into rhubarb chutney. I've still got a pan on the cooker, it's simmering away. So it took 2 pan loads to be able to make this batch, so 3 kilos of rhubarb went into this. But still got 3 kilos of rhubarb from the freezer still to use up, and there's still plenty of rhubarb still in the freezer. Okay, I've now finished making the chutney, and 13 jars, so that will keep us going for a while. It is Friday the 30th of November 2018. The pork has arrived, or half a pig, and we took delivery of it this afternoon. So it's all in a box. I reckon there's over 25 kilos of stuff in that box when I picked it up, and I'm about to open it now. Right, so there we go. Got to get this sorted. Well, notice the thick layer of fat on there. Now you don't get that with the sort of typical breeds that we use for mass-produced pork. So the fat contains a lot of the flavour, but also we'll be able to render that down to get the lard off it, and we'll use that in cooking as well. Well, most of this has been carved up into chops. Now what we're going to do is bundle these up into 2s and then wrap them in cling film and then freeze them. That way it's a lot easier to deal with, because we can use the sort of smaller spaces that we got in the freezers to store them in. But there's 4 very big joints in here as well, and we're going to have to work out what to do with them. So these are all the chops. We've packaged them up into pairs. We'll keep one set out for dinner on Saturday, or Sunday rather. The rest will go in the freezer. I've got quite a few of these which will be going into the freezer for a few days at least, and then we're going to cure them and make bacon. So here we have one joint, and then we've got the bits that will be used to make bacon, the chops, all bacon bits, and then whizzing over here we've got a leg and 2 joints which we're going to boil up as ham joints. But it's all going to go into the freezer for the time being, other than the chops we'll have for dinner over the weekend. All the sorting out I've done of the freezers in the last couple of weeks, eventually found enough space to put all of the meat in, so we'll start processing it soon in terms of turning it into bacon and so on. But I've not just been dealing with the meat today, because I have also been making yet more preserves. This is thick cut lemon marmalade, and one of the reasons I made that is because at the Emmanuel College fair that we were at the other day, we sold our last 3 jars of lemon marmalade and people were still asking for it. And secondly, one of the things I took out of the freezer recently, one of the freezers, was a bag of lemon peel. So it needs to be used up, so best way to use it is to make lemon marmalade. So we've got, let's see, 4, 8, 9 jars of this. So that's it for November 2018. Join us in December when we struggle our way through more of the rain. And we don't really do Christmas very much in our house, but we will have a Christmas dinner as well. So join us to find out what we're having. See you then.